Today we're going to be speaking about from the book of Judges, particularly Judges chapter 2. And we're going to be speaking from the viewpoint of first natural, then the spiritual. You know, this is taken from 1 Corinthians 15:46, which says, "Howbeit that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterward that which is spiritual." Here in Judges chapter 2, we're going to take a look at it from a historical viewpoint as well as a present day viewpoint, that is a spiritual viewpoint for the present day. And there's actually even a futuristic aspect to it as well, as it is with most, if not all, scripture. You know, so it's a small little chapter, but it has some very valuable lessons in it. You know, I guess it's not that small, about average size. You know, so that being said, you know, we're going to jump right in. Almost. I forgot I had this in here. There's a distinct cycle in the book of Judges. You know, when you look at the book of Judges as a whole, there's a distinct cycle, and this cycle is, number one, the people fall into idolatry. You know, they fall into idolatry. They get to worshiping other gods and bowing to them and so on and so forth. And we're going to speak about that now today. You know, and then, you know, that kind of, you know, upsets or angers Yah. And then he winds up giving them to the Canaanites, you know, or to the inhabitants of the land that's left in the land. You know, he gives them over to them, and then, you know, they begin to rule over them, and, you know, they're kind of harsh on them, and when they get so bad, people begin to cry out to guess who? For help. Then they remember who their El is, and they begin to cry out to Yah for help. And then Yah raises up a judge to save them. You know, and then after that judge died, the people fall into idolatry again, and so the cycle goes on and on and on. You know, and it's imperative that we understand that cycle for, like I say, first the natural, then the spiritual. You know, we just finished our reading concerning the book of Joshua. And Joshua is actually the namesake for Yahushua. And he is a type of Yahushua. And if we view him as a type of Yahushua, we can learn a whole lot concerning what's done transpired, as well as what's happening now and what's going to happen. And it's no different with the book of Judges. In fact, the book of Judges actually, you know, it's the culmination of, speaks to the culmination of Joshua's ministry, if you would. Okay. Another point to consider within this cycle is Joshua was the last one that Yah anointed to be head over all of Israel, you know, as Moshe was, you know, not so much as a king, you know, but as a ruler, if you would, you know, as a judge, or if you would, you know. And this is the same format that Yah had been using from the beginning when he sent Moshe and Aaron into Mitzrayim. You know, he told them that I will cause you to be as told Moshe, I will cause you to be as a god unto the Mitzrayim, unto the Egyptians, and Aaron as a prophet. You know, and that's pretty much how it was. You know, not so much as a God in the sense that we think of a God, you know, but as a judge, as a ruler. You know, and Aaron being the high priest was depicted as as the prophet, as his prophet. You know, and the same, you see the same thing with Joshua. You know, you have Joshua, and then you have Eleazar. But then after Joshua, you know, leaves, you know, there's no one put in place to succeed him. Like with Moshe, we seen that Joshua actually succeeded Moshe, you know, and Yah took of his spirit and put it on Joshua, you know, and Joshua done many of the some of the same things that Moshe did, such as parting the Jordan, even as Moshe parted the Red Sea. You know, Yah's dunamis power was available to him, you know, to bring about that, and you know, and other miracles, you know, such as causing the sun to sit still, you know, that was an incredible feat in and of itself. You know, but after Joshua, we don't see anyone else, you know, in line where we're saying, okay, like we're going to pass this mantle on and keep it going. You know, it stops right there with Joshua, and then you start having these judges that Yah begins to raise up. Okay, you know, and this is important in the sense of first the natural, then the spiritual, because Joshua is representation of Yahushua. So now we know that Yahushua is passed. You know, what could we can look back at history and see, you know, that in fact the same thing has happened. You know, so with that in mind, let's consider Judges 2:1. It says, and an angel of Yahuwah came up from Gilgal to Bochum and said, I made you to go up out of Mitzrayim, or Egypt, and have brought you unto the land which I swear unto your fathers, and I said, I will never break my covenant with you. Okay, now Gilgal actually means rolling. It is, for example, a circuit. It speaks to like a circuit, and you know, this, you know, Yah is showing me, you know, that this speaks to like his circuit, you know, his Moedim, which is a circuit which we walk through year after year, you know, and it goes round and round. The word Bokim, or the name Bokim, means weeping. And Israel or Egypt means double straits. So, saying an angel of Yahuwah came up from, you know, the circuit or the way of Elohim to a point of weeping, and said, I made you to go up out of Mitzrayim, out of double straits or oppression, if you would, and have brought you into the land which I swear unto your fathers, and I said, I will never break my covenant with you. Verse 2, and ye shall make no league with the inhabitants of this land. Ye shall throw down their altars, but ye have not obeyed my voice. Why have ye done this? So here it is. We see that Yah has sent a message unto them and telling them that, you know, reiterating what he had told them to begin with, that they should make no league with the inhabitants of the land, and that they should actually throw down their altars, but they didn't obey his voice, and he wants to know why. Now, what does he mean, make no league with them? Well, this word in the Hebrew is berith, number 1285, and it means covenant, alliance, a pledge or a treaty. You know, an alliance, you know, just speaks to association, even association with, you know, he said, make no associations with the inhabitants of the land. What is meant by inhabitants? You know, inhabitants, this word is yashab, number 3427, and it means to sit down specifically as judge or in ambush, you know, such as soldiers, or in quiet. So he's saying, you know, make no alliance, don't make no treaty, you know, no pledge, no covenant, no contract, you know, don't contract with them, don't get friendly with them, don't make no promises to them, you know, to who? To those in the land that are the judges, to those who are in ambush, i.e. the soldiers, or to those who are just trying to be peaceful. Don't make no alliances, no treaties, no contracts with any of them in any capacity. This is what he's saying here. He said, ye shall throw down their altars. You know, get rid of their system of doing things. You know, totally eradicate them from the land. That was what they were commanded to do, to destroy them all. Verse 3 says, wherefore I also said, I will not drive them out from before you, but they shall be as thorns in your sides, and their gods shall be a snare unto you. You know, Yah had told them, he had forewarned them, you know, that if they did not do as he asked and make no league with the inhabitants, that they would be as thorns in their side, thorns and thistles in their side. Okay? And here it is, he's reiterating that he told them that. So what does it mean to have them to be thorns in your sides and their gods to be a snare unto you? Well, Mark 4:18 and 19, Yahshua, he teaches us what these thorns represent. He says, and these are they which are sown among thorns, such as hear the word, and the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lust of other things, entering in, choke the word, and it becometh unfruitful. Okay, now, so Scripture is teaching us what these thorns represent. They represent the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lust of other things that come into a believer and choke the word from them and causes the word of Elohim that's within them to become unfruitful. Okay? So for those of you all who gardens, it's kind of like having weeds around, you know, whatever you're trying to grow. And the weeds just choke out the plant that you're trying to grow. You know, this is a spiritual picture of what's happening in the believers even now today. You know, this is a spiritual picture of what would happen after the Messiah died. You know, and what has happened. So we see the historical viewpoint, and we also can see the spiritual viewpoint. See, because there has been alliances made. Treaties have been made. We contract with the enemy. You know, spiritually speaking, you know, we come into, you can look at this from a historical viewpoint, where they came into the land, and the people that was existing in the land, you know, they contracted with them, and they, you know, they made treaties with them. They aligned themselves with them, you know, and they became thorns in their sides. You know, the things that they learned from them began to cause the word of Elohim to be choked out. You know, they begin to desire the things that they valued over the things that we're the value of Yah. You know, and so as a result, it chokes the word of Elohim out. I'm my first read Judges 2:4-9, please.
And it came to pass, when the angel of Yahweh spake these words unto all the children of Israel, that the people lifted up their voice and wept. And they called the name of that place Bachem, and they sacrificed there unto Yahweh. And when Joshua had let the people go, the children of Israel went every man unto his inheritance to possess the land. And the people served Yahweh all the days of Joshua, and all the days of the elders that outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great works of Yahweh that he did for Israel. And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of Yahweh, died, being 110 years old, and they buried him in the border of his inheritance in Methodist, in the mount of Ephraim, on the north side of the hill Gash.
Okay. So, here we see that it came to pass that when the angel spoke these words, the people of Israel, they were convicted. You know, and they lifted up their voice and they wept. You know, and this is, you know, this speaks to a time, you know, when, you know, even now, you know, we see people, they're getting convicted, they're seeing Yahshua is gone, you know, and all of the people who had seen the great works you know, of Elohim that Yahshua and his apostles done, they're gone. You know, and as a result, generations that done came up that aren't totally familiar with Yah. You know, they didn't see these things, so, you know, maybe they have trouble believing them, or whatever the case may be. You know, they're not giving themselves wholly over to Yah as the forefathers of the faith did. You know, and spiritually speaking, we see the same thing has transpired, you know, that now that Yahshua has died, you know, and the apostles and those who seen the apostles, the works that they did, you know, they're all gone. The new generations done grown up, just like when Joshua passed and all the elders that was around, and they seen the great things that Joshua had done, and they, you know, they seen him split the Jordan and walked over on dry land, seen him have the sun stop, you know, and all these wonderful things. But now, you know, it's just stories. Now it's just ancient history. They haven't seen any miracles in their time, and so as a result, you know, they feel, you know, hey, you know, I want to try other things. You know, maybe you know, Yah is gone, or he's, you know, he's not working, he's retired or what have you. You know what I'm saying? You know, and that's what we see. You know, people's mindset now today is, you know, and it says that the children of Israel, every man went into his inheritance to possess the land. You know, and it's something really interesting here in verse 9. It says, and they buried him in the border. This is, you know, I see this as, I don't know what to call it, a little ray of light, you know, if you would. It says they buried him, speaking of Yahushua, you know, in the border of his inheritance. And of course, Yahushua's name means the salvation of Yahuwah, the son of Nun, the son of eternity. You know, so we see it's a perfect fit to our Messiah, Yahshua. And it says they buried him in the border of his inheritance in Timnah Keres, which means portion of the sun, in the mount of Ephraim on the north side of Gaaz. You know, and Timnah Keres, meaning the portion of the sun, you know, this is where the end, the beginning of Yahshua's ministry will begin in the east. You know, when you look, I meant to put the diagram of how Israel was structured. You know, how Yah had structured them, like we went over in the book of Numbers. You know, you had Yahudah and their banner at the front in the east. You know, their banner being the lion. And in the west, you had Ephraim and their banner of the oxen being in the back. You know, they were bringing up the rear, so to speak. Okay, and we know that Yahushua is the light. Amen. You know, he's even called in Malachi the Son of Righteousness, S-U-N, right? Okay, the sun rises first where? In the east. You know, and that speaks to the ministry of our Messiah. You know, it will begin in the east, that is in Yahudah. You know, but the summation of his ministry will rest in the west, that is in Ephraim. You know, and so that's just a little ray of light right there. You know, and it'll be on the north side of the hill Gaaz, that is to agitate violently. You know, and what this is speaking of is when Yah's followers will be greatly agitated, when they'll be trying to force us to serve other else. See, it's one thing, you know, when the people of Yah choose to serve other Elohim, when they choose to bow down to him. But it's a whole different story. You know, Yah sit back and he watch and let us choose other Elohim. He'll sit back and watch us bow down to him. You know, he's not going to force us to serve him. You know, but when these other Elohim seek to force Yah's people to serve them, that's when Yah stands up. That's when he rises up. That's when he comes to his people's defense. You know, when you start talking about forcing Yah's people to serve other gods, forcing them to bow down to other Elohim, then he stands up for his mighty great name. You know, and this is a ray of light that just shows, you know, the ministry that Yahshua would have when he would come. He would truly come and begin his ministry in the east. You know, he will cause the light to stand still. You know, even as Joshua did, you know, until he finished his battle. You know, then he would be laid down, he will rest in Ephraim. And this is where he's been resting, you know, and he'll stay there until the hill of Gaaz. Mount Ephraim speaks to the nation of Ephraim, which actually, you know, is a term for the whole house of Israel, the whole 10 northern tribes, because they had the birthright. So Ephraim, the name Ephraim was known for the whole 10 northern tribes, what they call the lost sheep of Israel. You know, but when they begin to Gaaz, agitate them violently, you know, that's when Yah will rise up. Verse 10 of Judges 2 says, and also that generation were gathered unto their fathers. You know, they died, and there arose another generation after them, which knew not Yahuwah, nor yet the works which he had done. You know, and here it is, you know, that's where we are now today. We have a bunch of folks who know not Yahuwah, and they don't know the works that he has done. You know, they read about him, but they don't know him intimately. They didn't see it. You know, they have trouble believing it.
Yes.
You know, and as a result, they have trouble following Yah. Verses 11 and 12. My next reader, please. Well, 11, 12, and 13, please.
And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and served Baalim. And they forsook Yahuwah Elohim of their fathers, which brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods, of the gods, people that were round about them, and bowed themselves unto them, and provoked Yahuwah to anger. And 13?
Yes.
And they forsook Yahuwah, and served Baal at Ashtoreth.
Okay, so we see here, it's telling us in verse 11 that they did evil in the sight of Yahuwah and served Baalim. Okay, now there's a lot of debate concerning Baal, you know, and Baalim. You know, Scripture tends to point to that Baal was, you know, wasn't speaking to one particular deity, you know, but rather a number of different deities that were called Baal, you know, because they were what Baal means: lords, masters, husbands, owners. This is what Baal means, you know. And, you know, whether it did speak to a centralized deity, you know, or not, really doesn't matter, because we have the definition of what Baal means, you know. And I want to remind us what Elohim means: rulers or judges. Because it says they served Baalim. They served lords. They served masters. They served owners. Okay? You know, that's important to understand, because, you know, from a historical viewpoint as well as a present day viewpoint, you know, they begin to bow down, which this word bow is shakah, meaning to prostrate, especially in homage to royalty or to a god. Okay, so, you know, I want to paint a picture here so we can see what's really going on, you know, because commonly what's the picture that's shown is that, you know, hey, that you got a bunch of people that were just bowing down to a bunch of inanimate objects. You know, like they were just a bunch of idiots, you know, bowing down to tree trunks and carved images, you know. But that's not the whole truth. That's not the whole truth at all. You know, when you consider the meaning behind these words, you can see the true picture that Scripture is trying to paint. You know, the children of Israel, they did evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and they served Baalim. Plural, for one. It's a plural term. They served lords, the lords that ruled over that land. These lords were masters. They were owners of the land. They were masters of the people. They lorded over particular territories as kings. Hence, they bowed down to them as in homage to royalty. You know, these were other rulers. See, but Yah doesn't want us to have no ruler except Him. Thou shalt have no other Elohim besides me, he will say. No other Elohim, meaning ruler or judge. So Yah is saying, thou shalt have no other Elohim besides me. Thou shalt have no other ruler or judge besides me. But here it is, we see that they serve other lords. They serve other masters, other owners. You know, and people think that they're not doing that now today, but they're sadly mistaken. They're sadly mistaken. You know, the government owns you. And most people are just ignorant to that fact. They own your children. Most people are just ignorant to that fact. This is why they can send in their cronies to come and take your kids. Because they own them. I'm going to give you an example of a real case. This is a real case. It's kind of recent, just a few years ago. There was a guy in Arizona. He was a bigamist. No, not bigamist. What do you call it? Polygamist. Yeah, he was a polygamist. You know, he had many wives. And he had over 20 children. You know, and he had over 20 children, and so the government came up against him, and they came in and they took his kids, or they were trying to take his kids. And he was saying, you can't take my kids because they're mine. They don't belong to you. They don't have a birth certificate. They don't have a social security number. You know, I don't have a marriage license. You know, these are not your kids. They're my kids. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court. And he won. Because they weren't their kids. See, most people don't understand when they sign these forms, they're actually signing over their kids to another owner, to another father, to another husband, to another master, to another lord, to another owner. See, the same thing is going on nowadays. It's just been cloaked so that we don't see it. But it's the same deal. It's the same thing that they were doing back then. It's the same evil that Yah didn't want his people to be a part of. You know, you think, a lot of people just think that, you know, folks just, you know, voluntarily sacrifice their kids to Molech. Not in all cases. Sometimes they were taken from them and sacrificed to Molech. You know, because they had the authority to do so. Because they had given themselves over. Why would someone do that? For the benefits. See, this is why the children of Israel served the Baalim. The reason they served other masters, the reason they served other Elohim was for the benefits. This is why Yah told them to tear down their altars. Because you go to the altar to receive the benefits. You know, just like now today, folks, they're receiving the benefits from the altar of the U.S. or whatever you want to call it, or the state of whatever state you're in. You know, one of the benefits is Social Security. That's a benefit. You know, what do they call that? WIC. You know, welfare. Say again. SNAP. I'm not familiar with that one, but that too. Oh, food stamps. Oh, okay, EBT. Yeah. All these things are benefits of the lords, of the masters, of the owners. See, and people don't realize that. They don't realize that they're bowing before them, they're serving them. You know, and this is exactly what they're doing. Yah says, depend on me, I got you. Now, he didn't say things won't get rough. He did not say that. He didn't say they won't get rough. He just said he has us.
Hallelujah.
He didn't say you won't find yourself, you know, haven't had nothing to drink in 3 days and think you dying of thirst. He didn't say that wouldn't happen. But he said, you know, if need be, I'll bring water from a rock for you. He didn't say you wouldn't find yourself feeling like you're starving to death. But if need be, he'll rain down food from heaven for you. See, this is the type of El we serve. You know, we're to only seek him. He's our master. He's our owner. We're not to give ourselves over to other men, other gods, other rulers or judges, other owners, other lords, other masters. See, this is what was going on back then, and this is what's going on now. You know, another way of looking at this, oh, let me get to verse 13. Verse 13 says, oh, I forgot. Matthew 23, 8 through 10, when the Messiah walked the earth, he spoke to this too. He spoke to this too. He didn't forget about it. It says in verses 23, Matthew 23, 8 through 10, it says, but be not ye called rabbi. Now, you have many people who tell you that rabbi simply means teacher. That is not the truth. It's a word of Babylonian descent, and Rob spoke to master, and rabbi speaks to my master. Hence, we see in Matthew 23, 8, it says, but be not ye called rabbi, for one is your what? Teacher? No. Master. Even Messiah, and all ye are brethren. They're interpreting it for you right there. And he goes on to say, call no man father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. This is a term that they used to refer to the priest as, and they reverenced the priest in this manner. And they still do. Absolutely. You know, but Yah saves all the reverence for himself. You know, this is why I won't let nobody call me reverend. What do you mean, reverend? Don't reverend me. Reverend him. You know, you can call me a lot of stuff, but don't call me that. You know, he says, neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Messiah. You know, so he even deals with the term master in itself, and he deals with the disguised term master, rabbi. He said, don't be called these things, because you only have one master, you only have one Father. You know, and what people don't understand is that these were terms of ownership. You know, when you bowed to something, that was a sign of submission. That was saying, I submit to you. You know, I'm your servant. I'm your vassal. You know, and it says they forsook Yahuwah and served Baal and Ashtoreth. Okay, now we're gonna take a look in physically and spiritually and see what was really going on here. This word Ashtoreth literally is number 6252, and it means stars. A star, you know, when you look up the definition of a star, it says, it speaks to a self-illuminating celestial body. Self-illuminating celestial body. Okay? You know, and these stars, you know, they were also served. And these were people that was stars in the community. It comes from Ashtoreth, number 6251, and also Ashtaroth is also a plural term. Why do you think that is? More than one. Because they wasn't just serving one Baal. Even though there may be a Baal somewhere, they wasn't just serving one Baal, neither was they just serving one Ashtoreth. They were serving Baalim and Ashtaroth, both plural terms. Ashtaroth comes from Ashtoreth, which means increase, which comes from Ashar, number 6238, which means to accumulate, specifically to grow, cause, or make rich. See, and this is the same Ashtaroth that they're serving today. This is the same Baal they're serving today. They're serving masters. They're serving other masters, I should say, other than Yahuwah. They're serving other lords, other than the lords that Yahuwah set up. And they're serving other owners. Okay? And they're also serving other stars. Those who are self-illuminating. Those who have increased. Those who have accumulated. Who have specifically grown, caused, or have been made rich. See, and they're serving them now today. You just don't recognize it because they look a little different now today. You know, they look more like this. You know, this is the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where they exalt the stars, and people come from world around to see the stars. Okay, now you have to understand that these stars are found where? In the sky, in lofty places. They're to be looked up to. You know, they shine light in the darkness. But it's not the true light. It's not the light of the day. It's the light of the darkness. You know, so y'all put the sun to rule over the day. And here it is. This is what people bow down to. This is who they're serving. This is what they're, you know, you really think about it. And if you're honest with yourself, and you can also, it's easier to see it in other people. Some people have trouble looking in the mirror. You know, it's easier to see it in other people, but just think about it. You know, most people, everything that they do, I would say, in the high 90 percentile, is centered around this definition of Ashtaroth, specifically trying to grow, cause, or be made rich. Now, is that true or untrue? Most people, the high 90 percentile of all their actions is centered around trying to become rich. Those who are doing so are actually serving Ashtaroth. Everybody wonder where she went. Nowhere. She's still here. And she's ruling. And it's just as many people serving her today as was serving her back then. And I've got into Ashtaroth before, and I've told you guys that the first coinage came from Ashtaroth. You know, it had her picture on the front and it had an owl on the back. And I even showed you a blown up picture of the U.S. dollar and how there's an owl hidden in the upper right hand corner. You know, paying homage to Ashtaroth. You know, you have to understand these things. You know, this is the spiritual aspect, you know, in the present day application of the word. You know, yes, it's written in archaic terms, but the essence of it is still there if we choose to look. If we choose to pull the covers off, we can still see the nuts and bolts of this thing. We can still see the skeleton of it. You know, what it's really standing on. You know, they were serving riches. They were doing everything to accomplish riches. That became the motivation for their life. And those who do so, they are serving Ashtaroth. And then others, you know, their lives are curtailed by alim, by masters and judges that's put in place over them, that they choose to bow down to. Yah said, make no alliance, no treaty with these entities. You know, in other words, you know, he wanted us to fight to the death. They are supposed to be our enemies. We're not to give in to them. We're to trust in him that he will deliver us from them. You know, but many people are still serving them. You know, maybe you'll recognize Astra better by this image. Same thing. This is the reason why many people serve, you know, serve the Messiah. This is the reason why many people have accepted his doctrine, has accepted his word, because of, you know, they think that they're going to be made rich by doing so. This is why the present day prosperity message is so popular. This is why this message brings about what they call them mega churches. Thousands of members. Because they're promoting prosperity. You know, and it's just a cloak for serving Astra. It's just a cloak for serving Astra. You know, it's the same thing. The same thing that was happening then is the same thing that's happening now. Just as Ecclesiastes teaches us, there's nothing new under the sun. One generation rises and forgets what the other generation had done. You know, and then they go and do the same thing. This is what's happening. We have to get this into our spirits. We have to understand what the word is really getting across to us today. We have to always remember that the word is written the same way that the Messiah spoke when he walked the earth. In parables. He spoke to the multitudes in parables. But he revealed the essence of these parables to his disciples. Those of us who study to show ourselves approved, as well as, you know, meet the criteria thereof. Can I have my next reader read Judges 2:14 through 18?
Judges 2:14 through 18. And the anger of Yahuwah was hot against Israel, and he delivered them into the hands of spoilers and that spoiled them. And he sold them into the hands of their enemies round about, so that they could not any longer stand before their enemies. Whithersoever they went out, the hand of Yahuwah was against them for evil, as Yahuwah had said, and as Yahuwah had sworn unto them. And they were greatly distressed. Nevertheless, Yahuwah raised up judges, which delivered them out of the hand of those that spoiled them. And yet they would not hearken unto their judges, but they went a-whoring after other gods, and bowed themselves unto them. They turned quickly out of the way which their fathers walked in, obeying the commandments of Yahuwah, but they did not so. And when Yahuwah raised them up judges, then Yahuwah was with the judge, and delivered them out of the hand of their enemies all the days of the judge. For it repented Yahuwah because of their groanings by reason of them that oppressed them and vexed them.
Okay, so here it is. We see that Yahuwah, you know, he gets upset with Israel. He's not going to break his covenant with them, you know, but don't get it twisted. Just because he won't break his covenant with them doesn't mean he won't wipe them out. You know, and cause a whole nother nation to come up from one individual, which is actually what he did with Messiah. You know, what he did naturally with the ones that came out of Mizraim and died in the wilderness. You know, he'll wipe out a whole generation of you, you know, if you don't want to adhere to his teachings and instructions. You know, but he'll never do away with Israel in and of itself. because there's always a remnant. You know, there's always those of us who will stand for righteousness, say, no matter what the case, you know, in the face of adversity. So here it is, when he gets upset, it says he sold them into the hands of their enemies round about, so that they can no longer stand before their enemies. You know, and unfortunately, this is where we're at now today, you know. But he raises up judges, you know, to deliver them out of the hands of them that spoil them. And it says, and they would not hearken unto the judges, but went a whoring after other gods and bound themselves unto them. Because the judges, you know, when he raised them up, he was with them. You know, and so they're going to be teaching and they're going to be teaching and instructing as he would have them do. You know, they will be his judge. You know, they will be his governor, his ruler. You know, he's saying, you know, hey, you looking for somebody to serve? Here I am. You know, you want to serve, okay, you don't want to serve an invisible L, okay, you want to serve a man, okay, well, I'll raise one up for you. You know, serve this one. You know, let him govern over you, let him rule over you. You know, but they don't want to do so, see, because Yah's system is different than man's system. You know, man's system take from the rich and give to the poor. You know, their excuse is, you know, we're going to take care of everyone. You know, Yah's system is, you know, we're going to take care of the poor, but it's voluntary. We're not going to make anyone take care of the poor. We're not going to make anyone take care of the weak. We're not going to make anyone take care of the orphans. You know, I want you to do it out of love. You know, this is Yah's way. You know, but man's way is, you know, no, we're going to mandate that you give so that we can take care of them and take care of ourselves. You know, it's a big difference. Yah's altars are totally different than man's altars. You know, with Yah's altars, we volunteer the offerings. With man's offerings, they demand the offerings. Huge difference. You know, so when you're dealing with a voluntary system, you know, sometimes, you know, you have to wait until Yah puts it on someone's heart to give. You know, but rather than people waiting on that and waiting on Yah, you know, they'd rather go with this, you know, system that look like it's guaranteed. Yeah. But in all actuality, it's only guaranteed to fail. And not one of them has not failed in all of history. You know, so Yah's way is really the best way. He knew that, of course, from the very beginning. But people don't recognize that, you know. And people ask, well, why didn't Yah just wipe out all inhabitants of the land so then they wouldn't have been tempted to even do that? See, it's because Yah, he wants those of us who truly love him. He wants those of us who truly love him. If we look back, he actually tells us. He says in Judges 2:3, he says, wherefore I also say, I will not drive them out from before you, but they shall be as thorns in your sides. That's not what I'm looking for. Well, somewhere in here it says that he wouldn't do it because he wanted to prove them. Yeah. Or maybe it was in chapter 1. Yeah. But he definitely says the reason that he did not is that he might prove them.
Yeah, it's 2:22.
Oh, it's coming up, huh? The patience is a bitter seed that bear forth sweet fruit, huh? All I had to do was go to the next slide. Let me have my next reader read Judges 2:19 through 23.
And it came to pass, when the judge was dead, that they returned and corrupted themselves more than their fathers, in following other gods to serve them, and to bow down unto them. They ceased not from their own doings, nor from their stubborn way. And the anger of Yahuwah was hot against Israel. And he said, because that this people have transgressed my covenant, which I commanded their fathers, and have not hearkened unto my voice, I also will not henceforth drive out from before them of the nations which Joshua left when he died, that through them I might prove Israel, whether they will keep the way of Yahuwah to walk therein, as their fathers did keep, or not. Therefore Yahuwah left those nations, without driving them out hastily, neither delivered he them over the hand of Joshua.
Hallelujah. So we see here, you know, nothing new under the sun. The same thing is still going on right now today. You know, Joshua, that is Yahushua, he's died, you know, but Yah did not remove all the unclean spirits. He did not remove all the things that offend. He left some here. But he left them for a reason. And it wasn't that he couldn't destroy them. He left them for a reason that we might be proven by them. You know, another way of looking at these Baalim, these lords, these masters, is, you know, from a spiritual perspective, is when we're fathered from above. We inherit a land, i.e. these flesh bodies, which is made from the dust of the earth. They're a type of land, you know. And when we're fathered from above, we inherit this land. And in this land, there are lords. There are masters. You know, such as, you can look at a master or a lord as an addiction. An addiction lords or is a master or a lord over your flesh body. You know, now here it is, you just accept the Messiah as your El and King. You know, you receive the Ruach HaKodesh. That doesn't make the addiction go away. That's something that you have to fight with in the land. That's a part of the inhabitant of the land that you have to destroy. You have to destroy that inhabitant. You cannot make any treaty with it. You can't say, well, I'm just going to drink on the weekend. Or I'm just going to get high on holidays. You can't make any treaty. You can't make any alliance. You can't make no contract with that spirit. See, you have to totally destroy that spirit from out of the land. See, that's the spiritual application of this. We all inherited a land that belonged to Yahuwah. You know, these flesh bodies, and they do have lords and masters. They have inhabitants in them. You know, when I got, quote unquote, when I received the Ruach HaKodesh and I began following and walking in the way, you know, there was things that was in my flesh that my flesh was used to doing that just didn't want to go away. Now there's some things that Yah defeated for me, such as profanity. I was one of the worst cussers out there. Every third word out of my mouth was profane. Filth, flam, filth. Times filth, flam. You know, but Yah just took that away. I don't even know when it left. I don't even know when it left. But Goliath didn't just leave on his own. You know, Goliath in my land was gambling. He didn't just leave on his own. We had to scrap. You know, I had to put my armor on, and I had to fight with that sucker, and nail and tooth to get him up out of the land. But Yah gave me the victory. Even as he'll give any of us the victory. See, but we can't settle for less. We can't settle for anything less than total annihilation of our enemy. See, and that's where people make mistakes. You know, even spiritually speaking, they make treaties, alliances with the unclean spirits that's within them, and they don't eradicate them from their lives. You know, they say, well, I'm just going to restrict. I'm just going to restrict, and I'm not going to do it as much. You know, that's making a treaty. That's making an alliance. No, you have to totally destroy the enemy. Otherwise, he'll be as thorns in our sides. Amen. It'll be something there to help choke out the word. You know, and it's the same thing with the Astra. You know, we look at these stars that we look up to. And then when we're looking at them, all of a sudden, what Yah has blessed us with isn't enough. All of a sudden, we begin to look at, you know, the grass on the other side of the street. It begins to look so plush and green that our grass don't look sufficient anymore. Even though all our needs are met, even though we're not begging bread, we just sit up here and we begin to visualize, you know, how much better it would be if we had what they had. You know, and see, that's just another way of serving Astra. These are just spiritual applications of Baal and Astra in our lives. You know, when we're not satisfied with what Yah has given us, even though all our needs are met. You know, when we won't totally annihilate the enemy that's within our flesh, but we make excuses for him. You know, I know one person, you know, they don't even try to stop cursing. They say, you know, that's how they get on the people's level. That's an enemy. You can't make no alliances with the enemy. You have to eradicate the enemy from out the land. We've inherited this land, you know, and there's plenty of Ikes up in there. We got to get them out. We can't make no treaties, no contracts. Only total annihilation will do. This is what Yah wants. This is what he told us to do from the very beginning. You know, and this is what needs to be done naturally and spiritually. And that's all I have for you today. Pray it was a blessing unto you.